This is Living Without Fear. Fear is the mind killer, a famous line from the Frank Herbert Dune novels. And it certainly is that. It paralyzes and stops you from doing things that move your life forward. It causes you to live in a constant state of stress and anxiety about what might happen in the future. Your mind is trapped by the constant, what if this bad thing happens to me? And then, even worse, it creates a feedback loop where there's this fear of being in a state of fear. Fear is the little death, the daily death that steals your spirit and your happiness. But what if there was no fear in your life, where you operate from a place of fearlessness, where you can walk down your daily path with a calm and certainness and deal positively with all the experiences that come your way? Not from fear, but from joy. Before we dive into how we can live a fearless life, let's look at the concept of fear for a moment. We tend to think of fear as a natural response, but it's not. Fright is a natural response, a biological mechanism designed to startle and stimulate the fight or flight system of survival, to mobilize an organism into action. Once the danger is over, it's immediately dropped from one's consciousness. Fright is not the same thing as fear. Fear is a learned response, an intellectual act that we're trained to produce. If a rabbit in the wild were to retain its fear, it wouldn't be able to survive, because it would be immobilized by the constant fear of being eaten. Remember, the feeling of fear is not the same as being frightened, which is a natural response to a threat to survive. Where does fear come from then? As a child, you learned to develop fear on a conceptual basis at around the age of 3 or 4. Carl Jung wrote that a child lives in the unconscious of his parents. Their anxiety and fear are transferred to the child because fear, including anxiety, guilt, resentment, and hostility, is such a significant part of the adult world. The child learns this fear as naturally as any other part of his or her experience. So, if this is a learned thing and something that really doesn't benefit us at all, how can we unlearn it? Living without fear, here are the 3 steps. First, recognize and accept your fear. Whenever you feel anxious over some future event or a guilt or resentment, or you feel a fear welling up inside of you, see that emotion clearly in your mind. Recognize it for what it is. It's not reality. It's your learned fear response to a circumstance. And its only real power over you is the mental construct that you created. This is especially true regarding a future event that you're afraid of facing, something you think might happen. Number 2, understand your fear. Be conscious of your fear, your guilt, anxieties, resentments, and let the emotion pass through you on a conscious level. Every time you do this, the fear will have less power over you. And number 3, face your fear. Yes, face your fear. Let's use an extreme example. A phobia, for instance, which is a fear that's become psychologically traumatizing. Let's say it's the fear of flying. The way to conquer it is by facing it and understanding that the fear is not real. Many people who are terrified of flying become pilots to conquer their fear. They reprogram their mind to no longer be paralyzed by the thought of it. But what about everyday fears? Fears about success, about meeting new people, about taking social or business risks. Again, it's the same process. First, create an awareness of your fear. Recognize it, see it, and then take steps to put yourself in it. Face it and let it pass over you, realizing the fear is not real and only a learned response. Your fear does not serve you any longer. You're allowing yourself to face it so that it can pass through you. If you do this, as simple as it sounds, it's the quickest and easiest way to conquer a fear. Do that thing that you fear, and sure enough, it grows smaller and smaller. Sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? Well, try it the next time you experience anxiety or fear. Try it even on a guilt feeling or a resentment. It will work with those past fears as well by recreating the experience in your mind and reprogramming your interpretation of it. By following these simple steps and repeating the process over and over, I promise you'll discover a magic power in your life. Your fears will no longer control you, and you'll be free to explore all the possibilities life has to offer. If you like the ideas presented in this program, download the free Zygon Mind Power app from any of the app stores and get the full course on this along with hundreds of other life-changing Zygon programs.